All right then, 2022 Volkswagen Atlas, the regular SUV model, not that coupe-looking cross-tour thing. Not that. This is the regular SUV, and this is what I would recommend to most people looking into this, because this is meant to be a practical vehicle for most families, a 3-row SUV. The half coupe-looking thing, that does look great. I will admit to that, but so does this. I think the regular SUV also looks amazing. So we'll start the review with that. Let's talk about the exterior first, because as you're about to see in this review, it's going to get pretty real pretty quick. I think, in my opinion, this is the best looking SUV along with the Kia Telluride. These are my two most favorite looking SUVs in this class. Not the quickest thing in the world, but again, we'll talk about that in the driving segment. So this vehicle has like a nice squared off, it looks like a grand thing when it pulls up to places. So you can park this on your driveway. I think it'll get some pretty good respect. And the other thing is, it is a VW product. You know, if you're looking into this amongst the competition, you like this because it's a VW and it's a brand that you like. So that's another reason why you're looking into it. So it's got the brand cachet going on because it's German, and we also have the phenomenal look. So whether you go with this SUV or like that coupe looking design, and this is 47 grand. I definitely do not recommend paying that much money for it. I know it looks great, the 20s look nice, but I would personally stick with the SE technology model with the 4Motion, and I would probably get the 4-cylinder engine for around $40,000. And I'm about to explain here in this driving segment. So this engine, we have here a 3.6 liter VR6 engine, okay? Almost like a pseudo inline six. It's supposed to mimic kind of inline six qualities, and it's supposed to be a very smooth 6-cylinder, and it is. You get no vibrations. It truly is a very smooth engine, and it produces 276 horsepower and 266 pounds-feet of torque. Now, the 4-cylinder is like, what, 235 horses and 258 pounds-feet of torque? And the reason why I tell you to go with the 4-cylinder is because this engine, even though it's a 6-cylinder, it's naturally aspirated, and I really appreciate that. The problem is, this feels like a 4-cylinder turbo. That's the unfortunate thing about this engine. The way they have it tuned here, it exhibits all those crappy qualities that you typically get with a 4-cylinder turbo. And I'm in the normal mode right now, and when I kind of step on it, it begins to lose steam at the top end. So if you're on the highway and you're doing like 60 to 70 miles an hour and you stomp on it so you can pass someone, dude, it's gonna disappoint you, because it's just like every other 4-cylinder turbo. It loses the steam, and I hate that feeling. Really, the benefit of a naturally aspirated engine is to pull hard on the top end, and this is not doing that. And this 8-speed Tiptronic, the way they have it tuned here, it's not ideal either. It always kind of gives you like this delay before you get up and go. So it almost behaves like a kind of a turbo lag effect. It's kind of what I'm getting out of this thing. So that's the issues with the drivetrain. And you're asking about the fuel economy. Well, here's the thing with the fuel economy. We have here the 4Motion, and I think this is rated to get about 17 in the city and 23 on the highway. The good news is, I mean, that doesn't sound that great, and it's not, but I do beat the EPA MPG just by a little bit. I get 18 in the city, and I get 24 on the highway. So I beat it by 1 MPG, and that's with, you know, normal driving. Okay, I'm not driving like, you know, somebody's grandmother. This is with active passing and all those things. So even with that, I'm glad that it at least beats the EPA MPGs with this VR6. On paper, I think the MPG goes up a little bit when you go with the 4-cylinder, but mainly I'm telling you to go with the 4-cylinder because this is not exhibiting the behaviors of a naturally aspirated 6 that I personally want. And if it's going to behave like a 4-cylinder, you might as well save the money and get the 4-cylinder. And I would rather option up and get this 4Motion because, you know, I'll talk about the handling next and the ride quality. So you might be saying to yourself, well, it's a VW product. It's supposed to be German. It's supposed to exhibit a much higher level of driving confidence, and it's supposed to drive better than the Japanese or the Korean counterparts, right? That's what you're thinking to yourself. Well, you'll be disappointed in that regard as well, because this is like a big, soft, slushy box now. That's kind of what they're doing here. The steering, there's like this slight play in it even, so that kind of detracts from the overall confidence that you have. It lacks precision is the point. And you're like, okay, that's fine. If it doesn't handle that well, at least it should ride good, right? If it's set up to be very soft and comfortable, well, that's what they try to go for. However, when you go over the larger bumps, like the kind of the potholes, the sharper bumps, if you will, in the road, you notice it a little bit more, even right there. That kind of translated into the cabin space more. So it's more of a choppy ride over the larger bumps. Over the smaller stuff and the everyday bumps, yeah, it does a great job there. But here's the thing. Here's my biggest complaint with this car. This is not class competitive. There's a couple of different types of people that watch these reviews, right? I've noticed a lot of it is owners trying to seek validation. So they're trying to go on the internet and try to see if they actually made the right choice. And you should have done that before you went and signed the papers, all right? Not afterwards. So you're doing your research afterwards, and that's very stupid, because here I am telling you that this is not a class competitive vehicle. The other thing is you have a lot of VW fanboys and fangirls. They're going to be watching this, and they're going to get pissed off by seeing this. And only a quarter to a third of the viewers are actually going to be truly in the car market, trying to study and trying to gauge which vehicle is going to be the best for them. And only those people appreciate these real world reviews. And kind of got off track there a little bit, but yeah, it doesn't handle that great. Mainly because of the way its suspension is set up, okay? I'm fine with the vehicle feeling big and floaty as long as it's comfortable, which this is not over the larger bumps. The opposite end of that is it's supposed to handle really well if it rides a little bit firmer. And this doesn't do that either. It's okay. The chassis is neutral, but I feel like the suspension, the way they have it set up, is neutering it. The suspension and the transmission is the most unfortunate thing about this, because otherwise I can tell this vehicle has potential. The 4Motion is doing a good job handling the power output, so I would definitely recommend that. In fact, it's an SUV, it's a must. You have to get it in 4-wheel drive, that's for sure. But here's the thing. My parents, we owned a 2012 Passat back when that was a newly redesigned vehicle. And that car had that kind of German solidity and driving feel that you come to expect out of a VW or a German product, right? That car had it. However, these new VW products, including the Taos that I reviewed as a manufacturer press loan, both of these vehicles exhibit the same exact demeanor, okay? They're big, soft, slushy boxes with light steering, and the power is tuned to give you all the thrust down low to make it seem like it's quick, and then out on the top end, it dies out. Now, I'll make another seemingly ridiculous comparison here, just to give you some context. I reviewed a 2022 BMW X5 recently. I get it, that's like a car that costs almost twice as much as this, but hear me out, I'm trying to make a point here. That SUV also feels very similar to this. Very light feeling in the steering, okay? Almost has like a type of play in it, right? And it's also big and soft. It sacrifices the handling a little bit. And BMW is a car company that you see as like the ultimate driving machine. You have a certain expectation about the way it drives, and it's not delivering. So I really think it's you, the consumer, that's killing the feeling of a lot of these new cars, because manufacturers probably assume that the average everyday driver, especially in the United States, wants that big soft feeling, that easy to handle feeling. And that's true. This is a very easy car to drive every day. Okay, it's easy to place out on the road. Driving position is good. Here's the thing. It's the Japanese and the Korean cars nowadays that have more of a German feel than the German cars themselves, believe it or not. It's very bizarre to me. The Kia Telluride, by far best vehicle in the class, for sure. That has like that tight sensation that you would want out of a quality vehicle, okay? You can say whatever you want about Kia Hyundai, but they are nailing it in terms of the everyday car feel. They're doing the best stuff right now. Honda, another vehicle in this class that they are the best handling vehicles, for sure, and their V6 actually has so much character. It hauls ass on the highway, okay? That's how a V6 is supposed to feel and sound. This, you're not getting the benefits of that. The Toyota products also, if you want a nice, reliable vehicle with great resale value, V6 engines, hybrid options as well, also very comfortable and soft. If you want that, you can go there. Mazda CX-9, all of these vehicles I just mentioned to you, Highlander, Pilot, CX-9, Telluride, Palisade, all of these vehicles far superior to this. But here's the thing. I drove the Telluride 2 years ago as a 2020 model year. Who knows, maybe for 2022, they ruined the feel of it. Maybe it feels a lot like this, because car manufacturers, they update their feeling and everything just about every year, it seems like. All this stuff is electronic. This is electronic steering rack, okay? They can make this feel however they want. They can make it feel tight or overweighted, or they can make it feel like this, super light. It's all within the tuning, and same thing with the transmission. It's all software. They can make it feel however they want. They can fix all this stuff. VW is not a bad car company. They know how to make a proper driving, proper feeling vehicle. They're just not doing it here. They have an assumption probably of what you want, the everyday consumer, and that's what they're trying to mimic and deliver to you. And I feel like right now the Asian car companies are doing a better job of this. They're doing a better job of being a German car than the actual Germans themselves. So that's kind of funny, if you will. If you own the older model years of the Atlas, maybe those cars feel better than this brand new 2022. That's also a possibility. I can only judge this for what it is. This is the car that I had to test for you guys, and these are the conclusions I make of it. So that's the exterior, that's the driving out of the way. Let's go ahead and let's transition over into the interior segment. All right, moving on into this interior. I'm proud to say this is an interior that I like, and I do like to interact with this. That is a highlight. Whatever pros that this vehicle has, there are other competitors out there that do it just as well, if not better. That's the thing that you have to keep in mind. Okay, whatever good things I'm mentioning here, there's probably another vehicle out there, either the Mazda, the Kia, the Honda, that does it better. So there you are. But anyway, as it sits here, I like the materials. I like the solidity of it. When you open and close the door, it feels solid. The design layout is clean. It's easy to use. It's kind of a minimalistic design. And here's the other thing. You get a lot of things as standard with the Atlas. For 2022, there's not a whole lot of changes that they made. Mainly, they got rid of the S trim as the base model, and now the SE is the new base trim level. You might think that the price probably went up, and it has. However, they've cut the price down from the SE from like 2021. That kind of helps you out a little bit. And then they added USB-C connectivity in the third row. So not a huge change or anything for the 2022 model year, but just so you know. And this is also why, when I was driving the vehicle, I mentioned to you, I don't really recommend you paying up more than you need to, because this is already kind of a subpar vehicle in my eyes. Paying more for this doesn't make sense, especially when VW does a great job of offering you so much at the lower trim levels. As I mentioned, I would probably go for like the SE technology package with the 4Motion, with the 20-inch wheels. These 20-inch wheels wrapped in 255 wide cross contact Continental tires. Forgot to mention that during the drive. Very quiet vehicle. This cabin space is super quiet. Not a whole lot of wind noise, not a whole lot of tire noise. That's a pretty big pro to this. It does not utilize double pane glass, nor does it need to, because as I already stated, it's very quiet. But even in the SE trim, right, you're going to get heated seats. You're going to get this 12 or 12.3 inch, this gauge cluster screen here. And again, it's very minimalistic. I like the infotainment, but this gauge cluster, it's a little too minimal. You really have to sort through it to get the best menu for you. So you have to kind of dig through that, and that can be a bit distracting when you're driving. Automatic headlights, one-touch up and down windows for all four windows. We have here this pretty epic brown leather combination. Obviously, when you go down in trim level, you're going to be getting cloth seats or whatever. I will say the comfort of these not bad. The lumbar support is excellent, so that's a great thing. The climate control, I love how that's super simple, has its own dedicated physical controls. Again, everything is easy to use here regarding the center stack. Infotainment, easy to use. I think it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Pretty quick to respond and everything. Auto stop start, you do have to turn that off every time you get inside the vehicle. It doesn't remember your settings for the auto stop start. We have your USB-C connectivity here in the center console. Traditional gear lever knob, and you can shift this 8-speed Tiptronic yourself if you want to. I mean, I would just leave it in normal mode and just deal with it. Just use it as a cruiser, so don't really bother with that. You have your push button start, your mode selection here for your winter driving or off-road driving and your general on the street driving as well. You got your sport modes and things like that. However, the problem with driving this car in the sport mode is now the vehicle is hovering around a much higher RPM than it needs to, and now you're wasting way more fuel. 2 large cup holders, parking sensors, a pretty good backup camera, plenty of storage here. The center armrest is great, the glove box is pretty good, the door pocket space is nice, and the steering wheel is heated, and we also kind of have like this flat bottom steering wheel here, so that's pretty cool, I suppose. Now let's talk about the rear seats, because we have the optional kind of captain's chairs. I personally don't really like captain's chairs. I don't know really what the big deal is with this. I would rather just have like a 3-seat bench in the back to make it as practical as possible, but that's what we have here. You have the option of getting it this way. And again, the seats are amazing. They look great. You can move it forward and back, and we also have this kind of sunshade blocker back there as well. It's a manual sunshade. So if you have children back there, it's a great option to have. And you have your own climate control back there and some phone connectivity as well. Large panoramic sunroof. I think many people will like that. And another good thing about this vehicle, nothing is creaking and rattling in here. Granted, this car only has 1,300 miles on it, but I'm just saying it's holding up pretty well. Third row, pretty spacious back there. However, just keep in mind you do need to move the captain's chair forward a little bit, which is fine because you have so much space in the second row that you can absolutely move it forward a little bit to accompany larger individuals in the third row. I am 5'11". I can fit in all 3 rows, kind of sitting behind myself. And getting in and out of this vehicle is also very easy. So even though it's a larger SUV, it's 200-inch long SUV, it's still very manageable. Driving it, getting in and out, everything about it, that's nice. Living with it is easy. Yeah, I'm glad that the third row is useful, but really you're going to be folding those third row seats down most of the time, so you have as much cargo room as possible, because or else your trunk space is slightly limited, just so you know. And I believe you do have a spare tire back there as well in the trunk. But yeah, fold down the third row, get the bench seat for the second row, and I think you have a pretty practical vehicle here. Here's the thing, the Kia Telluride is just as practical. The Honda Pilot is huge. The Highlander is huge. All these vehicles are massive. It's really the CX-9 is probably the smallest. Practicality is in abundance here with all the 3-row SUVs. I'm going to leave it at that. You can do whatever you want. And thanks again for watching. Take care and goodbye.